Here's another fun build inspiration for the Cosmere RPG, the Gunslinger. This is a Ranged Burst DPS build for a Scholar Hunter who front-loads a ton of damage at the beginning of a conflict. Who has time to wait for the Mistborn rules to come out? We're bringing a gun to Roshar. The core of this build will aim to do two main things: build the perfect gun, and shoot all the things. When making our character, we'll focus on these stats. Firstly, for inventing and maintaining our guns, we want to make sure we max out intelligence, crafting, and lore. Second priority is speed and light weaponry. These two become the top priority once our guns are crafted. Once these other attributes and skills are capped, we can spend future points on willpower, awareness, perception, and stealth. We'll start with an artisan or underworld kit to get a free short bow. Now, let's talk about what we're using as a gun. We're going to be inventing a unique Fabriel with the Tier 2 projectile feature. At its base, this is a Fabriel with 5 charges. We can spend 1 charge to use it as a ranged 30-foot or up to 120-foot with disadvantage weapon that uses the light weaponry skill, has the offhand trait, and deals 1d10 impact damage. It's also got a unique potential upgrade that says you can spend an additional charge to attack 2 targets instead of 1. Let's quickly overview Fabriel crafting. Check out the end of Chapter 7 for all the details on this process, but the TLDR is this. Pick an effect to get its tier. Projectiles Tier 2. Gather 100 marks, halved from 200 with Efficient Engineer, and a Tier 2 gemstone. This can be a reward or your prized acquisition, Fabriel. Trap spread in the gemstone, spending a day to make a DC 20 lore test. Finally, you make a crafting roll, spending 2 days for a Tier 2 effect to do so. We want to hit 26 plus on that test to make a Fabriel with 3 upgrades and no drawbacks. Fine Handiwork lets us spend 1 upgrade instead of the usual 2 on an advanced Fabriel feature. Levels 1 to 3 will pick up those 3 mentioned talents along with erudition, allowing us to surpass the usual skill rank limit and bring both our lore and crafting up to 3. We also want to maximize intelligence with our first 2 attribute bonuses. Even with those skills, hitting that 26 crafting test is going to be really tough early on. Since we're initially capped at a +6 crafting modifier, that means you need to roll a natural 20 on the test, and it requires a lot of setup and you only get the 1 chance. Help from a suitable friend or research assistant or the scientific facility benefits of a patron like Navani are 2 ways you could gain advantage on the crafting test. A leader ally's command dice could prove invaluable if your GM allows them to apply, and another cheeky way is to have a friend who has Renarin's patronage, an enlightened Truthwatcher bond, or access to Night Form. All 3 of these get some version of the ability to pre-roll d20s, then swap them out with the results of an ally's test. If they're fortunate enough to bank a 20, you can offer many future favors in exchange for the help. Unless you pick up Inventive Design, you'll need to wait until Tier 2 for a Projectile Fabriel. At level 6, you'll have earned your second attribute point to get your intelligence to its maximum, 5, and can bring crafting up to 4 with erudition, meeting a +9 modifier. Now you only need to roll a 17. Even if you can't get it right away, you can obviously work with a less than perfect Fabriel until you can try again. You could also consider experimental tinkering to give you plenty of chances to attempt recrafting. I'm skipping those for now because I'm operating in a magical theory craft land where everything goes my way. But if you get lucky, here's what we're going for. For this build, we'll want to focus on the following upgrades for our first gun. Expanded capacity, bringing us to 8 charges. The Projectile Fabriel's unique upgrade to allow you to spend an additional charge to attack 2 targets instead of 1. For this, we still make 1 attack test and compare it against the defense of both targets. And Amplified to give all attacks with our Fabriel advantage. There are some other upgrades I just quickly want to cover. I looked into making a second Fabriel as a sidearm with the advanced Fabriel feature quick activation to let you spend 1 focus and activate a Fabriel as a free action, but like a pain rail, attacking with this is a distinct action from activating it. That's already a free action, so this wouldn't apply to us here. It's still worth making a second and third and fourth copy of this Fabriel down the line, both as a backup in case you lose it and as a sidearm because we can't easily reload them in combat. It's only a Tier 2 Fabriel, so finding an extra appropriate gem or 2 shouldn't be too difficult down the line. I considered greater damage to move up to a d12 damage die, but even if we ignore the fact that Amplified's advantage can cancel out long-range weapon penalties, it can help us hit regular strikes, and we only use it on the damage die, the average damage of a d12 is 6.5, and the average of a d10 with advantage is 7.15, so it's more flexible and it does better damage on average. Greater damage is still really interesting if you pick it twice, which I'm not sure if it's the intended design, but I don't see any rules against it, meaning we could get up to a d20 damage die. Pairing that with long ranged could make a really cool sniper rifle. But I digress. Once we craft the aforementioned Fabriel, we've got an 8-charge gun that always has advantage and can shoot 2 targets at a time. So now we got to figure out how to shoot it 4 times as fast as possible. From here on, we'll be focusing on speed, light weaponry, and perception as we dive into the hunter tree. Side note, once you've made the Fabriels, you could spend 10 days on the self-reflection downtime activity to reassign some of your intelligence towards speed to max that out sooner, but keep in mind you'll still want intelligence to maintain, repair, or replace Fabriels along your adventure, though that will get easier as your skill rank maximums go up. At level 12, you'll get your 4th attribute point, allowing you to max both intelligence and speed anyway. So levels 4 to 9, we're going to move into Hunter, grabbing Seek Quarry, giving us advantage to attack our quarry, bringing us up to 2 advantages with Amplified. We can shoot once with our main hand, and if we made a second gun, once with our offhand. We're in Hunter to get a 3rd attack, either from Unrelenting Salvo or Swift Strikes. Salvo can let you shoot your main hand 3 times, saving you focus, but it is reliant on shooting at your quarry. Swift strikes can be used on any target, but cost 1 focus, and we'd still need to spend another focus to shoot with an offhand projectile Fabriel. You can go after either one first, your choice, but both are great and will eventually go down both trees. I'm going to start with Archer. Combat training allows us to graze without spending focus once per turn and gives us shortbow expertise, so we can quick draw one when our Fabriels run out of charges. Steady aim is next. Until the end of your turn, both the short and long ranges of your ranged weapons increase by half, and when you hit with a ranged weapon attack, you deal extra damage equal to your ranks in perception. Using this action extends our Fabriel to a 45-180 range and tacks extra damage equal to our perception rank to each hit. Since our Fabriel can hit 2 targets per attack, I initially wanted to max perception and use this every turn, but then I did the math. Even if we trigger it 6 times with 6 perception for 36 damage, that's the max triggers you can get with our 2 remaining actions and max endgame perception boosted to 6 with emotional intelligence, our base attacks will already be boosted so much that it's almost always an average DPS loss to use this instead of just striking again. Since we're often lucky to be attacking with 2 advantages, it's even preferable to shoot at your weapon's long range and lose the advantage on the damage dice rather than spending an action to use steady aim. It's still fantastic to have for attacking enemies outside of 120 feet, but think of it as a utility talent that refunds some lost damage, not a damage booster. We'll take Hardy along the path to getting Unrelenting Salvo, allowing us to use the same ranged weapon to strike our quarry as many times as we can afford to. In a similar vein, we're going to quickly pop back to Scholar and pick up Overload, giving us a chance for another strike as a free action. Don't forget we can use one of our advantages on the plot die here. Now we'll go down the Assassin tree, nabbing Killing Edge and Shadowing, which can let us quickly designate a quarry in a pinch. We're mostly here for Cold Eyes. Now, when we defeat our quarry, we recover 1 focus and can immediately assign a new target to be our quarry, keeping our advantage up and, importantly, allowing repeated strikes from Unrelenting Salvo. We'll grab Swift Strikes to keep attacking when we have issues with quarry, and we can't miss Mighty here, adding 1 plus our tier damage to each strike. Finally, we say goodbye to Hunter at level 13 with Tagging Shot. Ideally, we never want to waste a full turn on it, hoping for setup time or shadowing to mark a quarry, but this is good to have as an emergency backup. Throughout this tier, we've been developing our core strategy. We're going to mark a quarry before conflict, then shoot it repeatedly with double advantage, spending 2 charges to send a second attack at another enemy if possible. We can graze once for free, and when we defeat our quarry, we automatically pick a new one, repeating the process with all 3 actions to hopefully do 6 attacks total. We use Overcharge on our last attack, applying an advantage to the plot die for a 56% chance to get another strike as a free action, so 2 more shots. That'll burn all 8 of our Fabriel's charges in 1 round for an insane amount of damage. Next turn, if we have a second Fabriel, we can spend a lot of focus to do the same thing all over again with our offhand, refunding focus on quarry kills, or burn an action to interact and draw it to your main hand. When we run out of charges, if anything's still standing, we can quick draw our short bow and keep shooting that way. Really, our only difficulty is going to be with melee punks getting up in our face. Let's do something about that. We'll swear the first ideal of the Windrunners, letting us enhance our speed past the usual limit up to 6. Gravitation also gives us access to Flying Ace and Stable Flight, so we can fly up in the air and rain justice from above. No more melee fighters getting too close and giving us disadvantage. For my Pythagoras fans out there, here's some info showing how your horizontal range to a point on the ground decreases as you go up in the air. You probably won't want to go much more than 10 feet up unless an enemy has a range with melee plus 5 reach. At the full 40 feet up, we can't hit the ground without steady aim or gaining disadvantage for using our weapon's extended range, but remember, we'll usually negate that disadvantage with our stacked advantages. So that brings us to level 16. We get a bonus talent to use on Mind and Body, allowing us to take Light Weaponry as an erudition skill, bring it up to 6, adding 1 to all of our hit and damage rolls. 17 through 19 will speedrun through our ideals, so we can enhance without spending an action or investiture. We probably won't use our Radiant Shard Blade in combat a ton, since it can only turn into a melee weapon, but it's definitely nice to have, and our light weaponry skill is certainly high enough to make good use of it if we need to. We press on to the 4th ideal to get ourselves Shard Plate, giving us an extra +2 enhanced to speed, and therefore our hit chance and damage. When enhanced, we're at 8 speed. The only way I see to get higher would be to go for a Singer Ancestry and commit a talent point earlier in the build to get Forms of Wisdom for Scholar Form to help you craft your Fabriels early on, and then get Ambitious Mind and Forms of Expansion for Relay Form and +2 speed. That would get you up to 10 speed at the 4th ideal and a whopping +16 modifier on light weapon attacks. I'll put build orders for both human and Singer options at the end of the video, along with stat priorities. If you want to remain a human, I'd spend the last 2 points on Adhesion's Binding Strikes and Binding Shots to let you shoot sticky bullets that use Adhesion to mess with your targets. The last Ancestry talent I'd use on Opportunist to help with overcharging your Fabriels. Just for fun, join me in magical fantasy theory craftland where nothing ever goes wrong. Let's calculate the maximum output of a relay form using this build at level 21. This will assume we're shooting at 2 target dummies, so we can always get both shots off on each strike action, and we succeeded on our overcharge, so that's 8 attacks. Each will on average do 7 impact, the average of a d10 with advantage, plus 16 from light weaponry, plus 6 mighty damage for a total of 29 damage, times 8 for 232 damage, 116 damage to each target. Yes, in actual practice, we'll miss some attacks, so deliberately remaining vague to avoid spoilers here. Factoring in our advantage, we're going to have an 87.75% hit rate on the highest physical defense in the World Guide. Applying that percentage to our average expected damage means just over 101 damage in one round to the sturdiest enemy in the Stormlight World Guide. To protect surprises, I won't say how much that is compared to their total, but it's substantial. So here's a quick overview of the talent choices at each level, along with your attributes and skill priorities. We prioritize the skills that let us build the projectile Fabriel, then we shift to focusing on the stats that let us best use it. The route for a Singer ancestry is much the same. Everything's just nudged back a level, and we finish off with Ambitious Mind and Forms of Expansion. I didn't mention it before, but we can ignore the downsides of Void Spren because we'll already have bonded an Honor Spren. So that's my inspiration for the Gunslinger. Let me know if you got any ideas for this type of build, if I missed any must-have talents or expertises, if you caught any mistakes, or if you got any ideas for the next one. But for now, thanks for watching, and don't forget to enjoy the journey.